My name is Ray.
Hi, this is Michael.
And welcome to another episode of Ray's Economics Clue Book. Today, we'll be talking about supply and demand and expanding upon demand.
Okay, let's see.
So what is a supply and demand model? Well, it's basically an economic model of a competitive free market.
Yeah.
So basically it tells you how the competitive market works when there are many suppliers and many consumers.
Pretty much you have many buyers and sellers.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So there are really two lines in the supply and demand model. One line is the demand curve, which details how the behavior of consumers, and the other supply curve, which is of course the detail of the suppliers. And of course the supply curve and demand curve cross each other at a point of the market equilibrium, which basically details how much goods at what price will be sold in this market. And so, of course, there are also factors that shift the supply and demand curves, and this changes the market, and it's something that we'll be observing and observing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, we just discussed the demand and supply curve using that to illustrate the fundamental, most basic model.
Yeah.
Because economics is all about model.
Yes.
Right. So then we have to see the market equilibrium and all the factors to shift those, and to see the consumer surplus and supply surplus and so forth. Right. Okay.
So here we're going to talk about this demand curve today. So basically, what is a demand curve? A demand curve basically looks like this. It details multiple points at which at different prices consumers are demanding different quantities. Let's say in a given time period, let's say per month. So here we see at $15, the overall amount of quantity demanded is only 1 unit of the good. Let's say coffee, like Michael said.
For example.
Then at a lower price, let's say $3, we'll suddenly see 7 cups of coffee demanded. Now, why is this? Why is when the price is lower, there are more quantity demanded? Well, the simple fact is when the price is lower, consumers are not only willing to buy more of it, they are able to buy more of it.
Sure.
And vice versa. When the price is higher, consumers are not only less willing to buy it, but they are less able to buy it. They might not be able to afford it. And so this is what we call the law of demand. The law of demand states that when price goes up, demand goes down. So basically, price and quantity demanded are inversely related.
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
Yes.
But just one more point. I mean, conventionally, we put the price on the y-axis, the vertical axis, and horizontal axis we put quantity.
Yes.
Okay, we just convention. So.
Yes. Now, of course, the demand curve, like the supply curve, can change the market. So there are two types of changes in the demand curve. The first change is called moving along the demand curve. Basically, mainly because of a change in price, we have a change in quantity demanded, but it's on the same demand curve. For instance, let's say the price goes from $15 to $9. Then we have the same demand curve, but we shift from this point at $15 to this point at $9.
So the move along the demand curve is pretty much just to illustrate the law of demand.
Yes.
Right? So the lower the price, the more demand.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And usually we're not accounting for any external factors that are changing, because all things being equal, we're only looking at a change in price, how it changes how quantity is demanded.
Yep.
The second influence, of course, you might have guessed, is the shift of the demand curve, as you also might have guessed, is a change in external factors. So, for instance, demand curve, when it shifts, let's say to the right, that means that each given price, consumers are willing to buy more quantity. For instance, let's say this price, the line right here, at the old demand curve, consumers demanded, let's say, a Q1 amount. But at the new demand curve, at the same price, consumers are demanding Q2. They're demanding more if the demand curve shifts to the right.
Same price.
Yes. And so, what's one example of an external factor? Well, one example would be, for instance, income. When consumers' income rises, they have more money to buy things, and so they're more willing to buy things and more able to buy things.
For example, the normal goods like the clothing, right?
Normal goods. So Michael mentioned normal goods. So this is only for normal goods. When consumer income rises, demand curve shifts to the right, because at each price, consumers are able and willing to buy more. However, Michael mentioned normal goods. The opposite is inferior goods. Inferior goods basically ironically, when the income rises, their demand goes down. They shift to the left. Now,
for example, potatoes.
Potatoes. So you might be wondering, why is this the case? Well, potatoes are usually consumed when we are more tight on money and we are when you just
Yeah.
need something to eat, and so you find potatoes at a cheap good.
Yeah.
However, when your income rises, you want to experience, I guess, richer foods or better, high quality,
foods.
luxurious foods. So you don't want to eat. You don't want to be eating potatoes the rest of your life. You want to say eat a barbecue rib steak,
Sure.
or
Yeah.
some seafood or things
sure.
like that.
Yeah, doesn't matter. So basically, it's just an example about external factors. So let's say your income, right?
Yeah.
So
the shift of the demand curve, basically another very important component that we'll be looking at right here is that it changes of prices of related goods and services.
Sure.
Because all goods, most goods have complements and substitutes.
Yeah.
Complements are goods that are associated with it and are directly related to the prices and movement of the goods. For instance, complements are things that you have together, like coffee and coffee creamer.
Yeah.
Those are things you buy together. Those are things that you want together.
yeah, usually, speaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, when the price of coffee creamers go up, the demand for coffee will go down, shift to the left, because less people are able to buy coffee creamers, so they want coffee less.
So the consumption of coffee also, reduced.
Yes, because they want coffee. They want the coffee or coffee creamers.
Yeah.
They don't want black coffee.
So they're pretty much like twins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the opposite spectrum, we have substitutes, replacements, basically like coffee and tea.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, when the price of coffee goes up, less people will be able to buy and be willing to buy coffee. So they still want their caffeine, and so they'll switch over to tea as a substitute to replace coffee. So a price increase in coffee increases demand for tea, and vice versa.
Yeah, so it's more like competitors,
Yes,
right?
competitors.
Yeah.
So for our final clue to wrap up this video, basically we will introduce you to the supply and demand model, and that it's a fundamental economics model because it illustrates what a competitive market is like and how it reaches equilibrium of price and quantity. We just talked about the law of demand, basically that price and quantity demanded are inversely related, and that a higher price leads to a lower demand and movement along the demand curve.
Sure.
And finally, we should talk about how there's shifts along the demand curve, but there's also shifts of the demand curve that are caused by external factors, while shifts along the demand curve are caused by price changes.
Yeah. For example, like income, like price of related goods, like subsidies or complements. But I really want to focus on the move and shift. Literally, you have to pay attention to these two different words.
Yes.
Because move along usually means law of demand.
Yes.
Yeah, just to illustrate that.
Yeah, and shift means external factors.
Yeah, external to really your whole curve shift to the left or right or up or down, like this. So the whole curve, makes different directions. So I really appreciate your presentation. I think that's really fun and a lot of new knowledge. And I look forward for your next episode.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Next
Bye
time.
bye.